a lot going on in our nation today. Looks like we're getting past the pandemic. We've had a heck of a run. It's almost like a biblical story, how we started off with this really good, nice guy president for like 8 years. He was rejected by half the nation. And we had another guy come in as president, kind of harsh, embraced for the negativity and the harshness. Then we had like a pandemic. And now then the cicadas are like a pestilence. I mean, it's like, man, you know, it's crazy. But we still have these black and white issues going on. That's what we're going to talk about today. Because all these other things, you know, we have a lot of situations in our nation and in the world that can be very aggravating, okay? And especially for this program, the issues of race, the issues of ethnicity, ethnic oppression and persecution. They can be very, very aggravating and very hurtful. But what I want to share with you today is how to get over that. Is how to take yourself out of the fray. Okay? Take yourself out of this oppressive rat race. You know, we're always talking about getting out of the rat race when it comes to finances, but there's another rat race. And it's this ethnic oppression. That's a rat race. And what I want to suggest is there are ways to take yourself out of it. But first you have to recognize that it is there. Okay, there are issues. I look at the politics sometimes. I'm not political. Okay. Now when Obama was running for president, yeah, I supported Obama because we needed a black man to be president. If Obama had been a Republican and not crazy, you know, I would have voted for him. Because it wasn't, that's why you saw Colin Powell, who was a Republican. But still voted for Obama because he was a wise man. He recognized the big picture. The politics mean nothing if you're in a society that you are not a first-class citizen. If you're a second-class citizen in a particular society, and the politics mean absolutely nothing, especially in this nation. I mean, probably in every nation, but in this nation, because we've had Republican administrations, we've had Democrat administrations, and the situation over and over and over again. And the situation for black folks is still pretty dismal in this nation, you know. And a lot of people say, well, it's better than it was. I don't want to buy that, you know. It's like hot water, you know. You put your hand in some scalding hot water, you know, if it was just scalding or if it was scalding, it's still hot. Don't tell me, well, it's just scalding, you know. No, because it's better than it could have been. No, it's not that. Reality is the situation is what it shouldn't be. And black folks have been here for over 400 years now. And free for 100 years or so, 150 or so years. Still suffering. And so no, until there's complete equality, we are not where we are supposed to be after all these centuries. And I shared that with some brothers, and that are conservative brothers, and they're like, well, there'll never be, you know, complete equality. No, there has to be complete equality. I don't mean from individual to individual. I mean from ethnicity to no ethnicity. I mean, white folks, black folks, brown folks, red folks, yellow folks, all folks equal. Now, within those people, there are inequalities. I understand that, based on education, based on income, you know, all these there are other factors. But as far as a people, there must be complete and total equality, okay? And otherwise, it's just jacked. Now that is the reality. Now there's the critical race theory, very, very interesting, which to me is just the white privilege issue, you know, but a more legal term. I guess lawyers got together in about 2000 or so, started putting stuff together on that critical race theory, which is now hitting the headlines because certain advocates are attempting to have this theory taught even in elementary school on up, recognizing the system that's set up to oppress. Okay, and it's called a theory, critical race theory, but come on, it's logical and it's true, but you know, all you can label it is as a theory, and the folks don't want this stuff taught I guess the white folks are really getting up in arms about in some of the school districts having this stuff taught to their kids, and I'm like, why? Because you don't want your kids to know how evil the system you created is, or the system you've benefited from. Okay, it's very important. And so intersectionality is a word that I've sort of recently. Well, interesting. I have my daughter in a very good school. She taught me this word, and now as I'm studying, critical race theory, they're talking about intersectionality, which is what she taught me. Now go figure. I guess that's what that money's for, right? Give me that education. Tell me something I don't know. But intersectionality is another type of oppression that folks go through, that they might have 2 or 3 different unique affiliations and that are oppressive and might cause problems. Or the situation where you have a black woman in the workplace, got a job working for this white supervisor male who doesn't like black women and who takes issue with black women. Thinks they're lazy, thinks they're uppity, thinks they got attitudes, thinks they got anger issues, And all black women, that's what he's thinking. And he persecutes her. and she tries to claim that he's persecuting her because she's black. But then as it turns out, he's got a lot of black male friends that he interacts with, goes out drinking with, has fun with. And so she can't very well prove that she's suffering racism from this man because he's got black friends. So well, she's a woman, so maybe it's sexism. But he likes white women. He even dates white women. He's cool with white women. They remind him of his little, especially the younger ones, of his little niece Jody or whatever. So this woman who is obviously being oppressed by this man because she's a black woman can't prove racism, can't prove sexism, because she is at this place of an intersection where she's got 2 things going on, and it's her dilemma. Okay. Very interesting. take a gay Latino. I mean, you can add or a single, white mother. And you can take, and people get 2 or 3 or 4 different things going on. So life gets complicated. Okay, and it's real. Another phrase called microaggression. Another phrase my daughter taught me. She's 16. She was 15 when she taught me that. Microaggression. Where folks in subtle ways. See, now let me be clear now. These are things that I've been aware of all my life. There just wasn't a name for it. Okay, come on now. Microaggression, where people have subtle ways of discriminating or coming at you in these particular ethnic ways or other ways that aren't really clearly identifiable. I'll give you a very good example. My daughter, she was in the 2nd grade at St. Christopher School in Vandalia. And see, so this was like, this was quite a few years ago, 8, 9 years ago. And we have always, for me personally, I have always shared with my children from the moment they were cognizant of life, of the ills that they were facing with white people in this nation. And because I didn't want them caught blindsided like I was caught blindsided because my parents hadn't informed me. My parents, of course, were very well aware of the situations that we had in this nation. And I think that's one of the reasons, I spent my early years in Europe through the part of the 60s, was because, as a military kid, and we spent like 4.5 years there. Because the issues that black folks in the United States were going through weren't really happening where we were living. So we weren't really aware. And but I'm determined, for my son coming up and my daughter coming up, that I'm always clear about what's going on. I remember one time my daughter came home from the 2nd grade, and I asked something about Native Americans, and there aren't any of those anymore. And so I don't know if that's what she was actually told. Probably not, in the 2nd grade classroom. But for whatever reason, that's the belief she walked away with. So when you have people that are actually professional teachers teaching your kids, and a kid walks out of class thinking there are no Indians anymore in America, then there's something wrong with that teacher. Okay, all I'm saying. So I had to clear things up. Now let's look at the internet. We begin to look at the reservations and look at the ills and the dismal situations Native Americans in this nation are facing today, okay? And so as well, the second grade. Let me give you this one, the last one here. My daughter comes home from school. Now you tell me. Now she's like what? There's like a fraction of black kids in this school in Vandalia, and she comes home as second grade now. That they were given this project. She was like the only black kid in that classroom, and the assignment was that they had to take those little popsicle sticks, you know, and be creative, and create the clothing that your ancestors wore when they came to this country. Now, what do you think the purpose of that was for? She was the only black kid in there. This is an adult woman. She was probably about 50, 55 years old or so. White woman. What do you think her point was? Okay, all you kids, what kind of clothes did she think this little black kid was going to put on these little popsicle sticks to represent the clothing that her ancestors wore when they came to this nation? And you might think, well, no, she couldn't have. Really? Come on, you're talking to an adult, talking to kids. I mean, if you're not smart enough to figure that out, you shouldn't be in that classroom at all anyway, okay? It's some kind of reprogramming program or something, I don't know. But so my daughter came and she wasn't even confused. She was just telling me what the assignment was, but I knew right away, microaggression. I didn't know the word, but I've been experienced that all my life. Now fortunately for my daughter, that my grandfather, my mother's dad, came from Mexico. He was Mexican. He was an illegal immigrant. Okay. So I said, fine. I knew what that lady was trying to do. What kind of clothes was my daughter wearing? Slave clothes? Come in the bottom of that ship. What were they wearing? So we got these two little popsicle sticks. Got some black thick thread and for hair and put a little face on there. Then I got one of those little coffee ground liners that you put in your Mr. Coffee. Put a hole in it so it'd be like a skirt, and I had like red and green stripes around it, like a little Mexican dancer, okay? And so that was to satisfy the situation my daughter was facing to go to school with. Okay, well, we're going to focus on your grandfather, how he came to this country, okay? The Mexican. And so she took that to school. And I used to drive my daughter to school. I loved driving her to school every day, you know, and I was so glad. She said, Dad, she looks at me, because these are kids. You know, sometimes we're thinking, kids are thinking like we're thinking. She goes, Dad, I said, what? She goes, and she has a serious look on her face. Is Mexico in Africa, or is Africa in Mexico? And I'm like, I was so glad she asked me that question. You know, I thought she knew. You know, no, I said, no, see, this side of your family from Africa, this side of your family from Mexico. Oh, man, okay. Because I can imagine what that little brain was thinking before she asked me that question. And I just laid it out to her. Now, she never knew why this teacher was doing. I knew, but my child didn't know, and I didn't bother to tell her at that point. I just wanted her to be happy with her little popsicle stick person, you know. And she told me after, when she came home, that her teacher looked very confused and didn't understand. So that right there proves that teacher knew exactly what she was doing. She was excited, I'm sure, to see what my daughter was going to bring her little popsicle figure looking like. And then she couldn't understand this little outfit. Oh, my great-grandfather's Mexican. That was into that. That's microaggression. But the problem with it, see, my daughter was able to dodge that bullet. I made sure. That's why parents, you have to stay engaged with your kids. We got no time to be high, no time to be drinking, no time to be smoking. That's the situation that you have with your kids is 24/7. You don't know they're going to wake up at 1 in the morning and have a very serious life issue, life question. And if you just high or buzzed, you're not going to be worth anything at the most critical time in that young person's life. You have to be ready. Man, but I'm the parent, like when my kids are born, you know, it's like my wife had an easy time. Because the moment I hear a sound in that bedroom, man, I'm up. My wife never had to get up because I'm there. And that's how you have to be all through their lives. You can't be high. You can't be buzzed. You have to be ready. And you know, I feel for, you know, my daughter was able to dodge that bullet because her grandfather was Mexican. But what about the kid who didn't have a grandfather who was Mexican? I mean, wasn't in that class, but who knows what that lady has done, you know, in other classes and other teachers have done. These are what our kids suffer through. We have to be aware, okay? And so I shared this, with I remember where I was coming up. I was coming up in Mad River Township, Mad River Elementary School. I think I was in the 6th grade or something. The whole school was just 6th grade, right across from Stebbins High School. And I had a friend, a white friend. There weren't too many blacks. I think I was 1 or 2 blacks in that class. But I had a friend, a white friend. He was my best friend. We were always goofing around, talking, laughing, getting in trouble together. And so we got in trouble together, and they wanted to paddle me and not him, to teach him a lesson by paddling me. And so I told my mom. She came in there and she blasted him. You will not paddle my son. You'll not. If you want to paddle them both, but not just my son. Told them off. She left. Guess what they did? Just paddled me. I never told her. I was so embarrassed. You don't know what your kids are going through. With what they're facing, and they're kids facing these adults, other situations as well, growing up. So I'm just saying, I was making sure that I will make sure that my kids don't have to go through what I went through. I gave them a heads up. Understand, this is what's going to happen. This is how many of these people are. This is how they're going to respond to you. You come talk to me. Because you're in school, man. You're in school. These kids are in school. And you wonder sometimes why, maybe little white kids doing a little bit better than little black kids doing. Because the white teacher often is allowing them to do an extra credit assignment to raise their grade up from a C to a B or a D to a C or whatever, and they're not offering that extra credit to your child. See, there's a lot of this stuff going on, okay? And we can't be high. We can't be drunk. You got to put that crown away until at least your child leaves home. And even then, they're going to need some help when they're calling home from college and all. Because we're dealing with stuff like this. So for me, so sometimes I look back at the situations that we have to go through, like the politicians, like the last guy we had in office, and he was kind of harsh and kind of mean, and he emboldened a lot of the so-called white supremacists. I don't call them supremacists because they're certainly not supreme. Actually quite ignorant. Okay, for real. It's funny. So I don't even get upset about those guys. But why is that? I have an MBA. I live in a nice house, nice community, good job. My wife is good job, has a company and all. We're doing well. Daughter's in the best school here in the region. So these people don't bother me. Okay? I just look at them. They are quite ignorant, and I get my thrill out of that. When I see a particular political flag, that's harsh in front of a house, that you could obviously see that the flag costs more than the house probably, or let's, make America great again. But I'm like, when has it ever been great for you? For real. We all know what those flag words are meaning, but see, I can get joy out of it because I know that most of those folks that in a situation, in a measurable quantitative situation, a life situation, I'm way better than they are. So it doesn't bother me. I get tickled out of it often when I see these people, riding around, as if they were supremacists, as if they were supreme to anything, because I'm much more supreme to them. Okay, but see, everybody didn't have that opportunity. Because just like the kid, if you had been a little black kid in that class my daughter was in, when they wanted you to bring the clothes to that your ancestors wore, and you didn't have a Mexican grandfather, what you going to do? Or you're in this society today and you have these guys belittling you, and you don't have an education, or you don't have a good job, or you live in a dismal situation. What do you have? See, that's why I don't get angry when I hear these guys make statements about black folks, because my feeling is that your ancestors, most white people in America did not own slaves. Most white people in America were just white N-words, okay? You needed money to own slaves. So the fact was, most white folks, in those days, were just a fraction of a step ahead of the situation of the slaves. Their situation was they just weren't slaves. But they were dirt poor. Many of them were working in the fields right next to the slaves. They just were white. They weren't slaves. But their lives were really very dismal. Okay? So understand that. But even so, their situations were way better than the black person because they were not slaves. So you had three people going on here. You had the slave who was black. You had the slave owner, few of those. And you as well had the white folks who were dismal poor, but they just weren't slaves. So both those situations of white people were way better than the situation of that black slave. But consider this. You're talking about such a head start. You're talking about 200 years of slavery. Then you're talking about a freedom. And then you're talking about persecution, unfair practices, whether it's hiring, whether it's housing, whatever is total Jim Crow, still lynching, still you can't drink here, you got to sit in the back of the bus. All that stuff that black folks had to go through 400 years up to date. And now those white people are either on the same level as the majority of black folks or lower. So my thought is, rather than celebrating about making America great again, you should recognize that you are a failure. Your ancestors, white folks, their ancestors are rolling over in their graves because they have blown such a head start that their ancestors laid out for them. So I don't, from a black person's perspective, I am not forlorn and dejected by the people that are out here talking about, the white power, white supremacy, make America, all this kind of stuff, because I'm looking at them and recognizing that maybe not a human being perspective in the eyes of God, but in all other measurable, quantitative, I'm better than him. So why would I be mad? I don't care what you say, man. If a blind person steps on my foot, am I going to get mad at them? These guys don't have any, they're not that bright. And so I see that with politicians. Even the politicians that drew them in. And from the left, but from the right. The politicians are using the people. And they try to find people who are really not that smart who will believe anything that they say, I mean, it's been that way historically. Come on now, throughout history, in all nations. Who fights the wars? And who starts them? Who gets rich off the wars? And who dies? And are still poor once the war is over? We got to realize that. So now as black people, we have to get our act together. I mean, for ourselves. we have to take ourselves out of the fray. See, and it's very difficult, because like say for instance the gun violence we have going on in our nation. We have a lot of gun violence by the police against black people, but we have a lot of issues of black people killing black people. Now I'm not on that, because you got the same percentage of white people killing white people, brown people killing brown people, yellow people killing yellow people, black people killing black people, because statistically most of the people that you kill will probably be folks from your own neighborhood. So first of all, don't ever let anybody rail on you about black on black, killing, because the same percentage of white folks are killing white folks. Okay, that's just the reality. But still, for me, it's frustrating because everything that I've just shared with you, right now we have an opportunity. You can be whatever you want to be, do what you want to do. Okay, we have seen people come out of the hood and become doctors. And lawyers and all this, because you have opportunities before you. But there are a couple of problems. One of the problems are the parents. The parents are high. The parents are drunk. The parents are terrible examples and have a terrible environment that this child is coming up in. This child doesn't have a chance. Man, I know for my kid, man. My kids, first one went to college, and my daughter, she'll be going to college, but it takes two parents. It takes two sober parents who aren't going out, who aren't partying. It's Friday night, you can't do that. It takes two parents hands-on in the school, monitoring the homework, helping with the homework, encouraging everything that needs to be encouraged for your child to be successful. Now I'm not talking about maybe you might have the child that's a prodigy or a genius, but most of our kids aren't that. And so most of our kids, they do need those two parents at home working. So that right there, so we as parents have to begin to reevaluate how we're handling our situations. And so if you are a single parent, you can't be going out. Period. You can't be leaving the child at your grandma's house and go to the club. Meet some man, bringing somebody else in the house, bringing somebody else. It's not going to work. And I'm talking about how we get ourselves out of the situation we're in. The answer are your kids. It's not about you anymore. When you have kids, your life is over. I mean, that's the way it should be. And we can't compare ourselves to white folks or anybody else because we are in a unique situation. But the only way out of this thing is our kids. And we have to be examples before them we have to raise the bar before our kids so they'll know what to reach to. But if they see us getting high every day, they see us getting drunk every day, they see us, with a man and all different men, different women or whatever, even them being born out of wedlock is problematic because there's nothing wrong with that in their eyes. Man, I remember years ago when I was working for NCR. When I first started there, I was taking the bus to work every day, through downtown, catching the transfer to Patterson. And I remember this one day, this black girl, she got on the bus and she was happy because that was the day she herself qualified for her own personal welfare. I don't know the system or how that works, but all I'm saying is that was the bar that her mama raised for her. See, my thing is your kids are looking at you. Why do you think that he acts just like his daddy? She acts just like her mama. Why is that? Because they're watching you. They're going to be like you. For real. Some way, form or another. My kids, man, I took a long time before I went to college. I was 50 years old when I decided, hey, why don't I get a college degree? And so my son, he was at UC, University of Cincinnati. I was at Sinclair. We graduated at the same time. He earned his bachelor's degree when I earned my associate degree. In his mind, I guess he did reach that bar that I had raised for him. He surpassed me. I continued school. 10 years later, I earned my bachelor's degree, then I earned my MBA. Now my daughter, coming up, she has to surpass her dad. We have to raise that bar. We have to be the examples. My daughter, from the time was in school from the time she was 3 years old. I was at Sinclair. And I was like struggling. I remember struggling with math and algebra and all that. And her coming up there at 4 and 5 years old while I'm just working, balling, throwing paper. I had like stacks of paper that I was working out algebraic equations on her, or at least trying to. So from age 3 to age 13, she watched me go to college and finally graduate with the MBA. What kind of impression do you think that made upon her? See, my kids, they know Martin. Daddy's Martin. They don't know Marty. They don't know the guy that would get the buzz, the guy that was in the clubs every night of the week. I'm so glad they never met that guy. Because their aspirations, that was the level of the bar I would have raised for them. It's up to us. It's up to us to be the example. Whatever you want your child to be the example of that in front of them. And so they don't have to come up victimized. See, a lot of the things that I had to go through, even in elementary school, some of the white, racist, ethnically oppressing teachers that I had to deal with, and I had no help. No parental, nobody parent for me blocking because they weren't even aware of the situations I was going through. I make sure my kids don't have to go through that. They don't have to live through the humiliation. They don't have to live through the unfair treatment that we had to experience. See, right now, when somebody like a politician, white politician or white entertainer, anybody says something disparaging about black people, we just get mad, get on Facebook and see that, and then we share and share and share. So what? But I guarantee you, if you are financially well off, educationally well off, in a great situation in life, their antics would be more humorous to you. If you're better off than the individual who is deriding you, it doesn't affect you so much. I remember once, I was in the military, stationed in Wright-Patterson as a young airman, and we met up with this guy, this This guy, he was going to hook us up. And he was like a kind of hippie-ish guy, drug addict, long hair, dirty clothes, stringy. And I was with a white guy, white Jewish guy. We were both in the military. And this guy was talking about, yeah, you know, I was just in Dayton, you know, a lot of them N-words. I'm just saying N-words because I'm trying to keep my time slot on this program here, but you know what I'm talking about. I said, what? Oh, he said, no, I'm not talking about you. I mean, I was in Dayton. I'm talking about those guys. And now, understand, I didn't say N-word, okay? And he was just dirty, filthy, long-haired, stringy, tattoos. They had on tattoos that said Cherokee or something on his arm or something. I said, N-words. I said, just look at you. I said, you're filthy. I said, you're an N-word. I didn't say N-word, okay? I said, you're just an N-word. Just look at you. You're filthy. You're an N-word. Yeah, I just humiliated him. It did feel kind of good. Now I might understand why he likes saying it so much, okay? But I just ripped him up, calling him an N-word. You're just a white N-word. Look at you. And I just ragged on him. Humiliated him. Then after we got rid of him, we're driving down the road, and my friend says, Marty, can I ask you something? I said, go ahead. This is a white guy, my white friend, best friend at the time, in the military. He said, could you please not use that word in front of me anymore? I said, it's none of your business. That's between me and him. You don't have any right to ask that of me at all. None of your business. I use that word when I choose to. That was the end of the conversation. He never brought that up again. This is between us. See, the problem is, now I have a lot of white friends, and a couple of good ones. Okay, but let me put it this way: the whole white privilege thing. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, conservative, progressive, liberal, whatever you want to call it, love black people. All white people have benefited from this white privilege from the beginning, and knew they were benefiting from it. So it doesn't impress me. I mean, I like my friends, but it doesn't impress me that you're pro Black Lives Matter. It doesn't impress me that you're pro everyone's rights and all this stuff. I appreciate that. But the reality is that every white person from the time they were born in this nation has benefited from white privilege. Okay? So to me, then, whatever you do brings you closer to being at surface level. You're not elevated. Like my friend, could you please not? What are you talking about? You and I are not in the same place. Okay? I think I might not have to go anymore. You understand what I'm saying? So given that now, let me get back to black people. You have to get yourself out of the situation you're in. If you want Black Lives to Matter and you're smoking weed, you're a hypocrite. If you want Black Lives to Matter and you're drinking alcohol, you're a hypocrite. If you want Black Lives to Matter and you're not taking care of your kids, you're a hypocrite. If you want Black Lives to Matter and you're not trying to further your education, your income level, you're a hypocrite. If you want Black Lives to Matter and you're living off of some other woman's money, you're a hypocrite. If you want Black Lives to Matter and you're a gangbanger, you're a hypocrite. If you want Black Lives to Matter and you're a black conservative, you're a hypocrite as well. Look. Let me put it this way. Because we have to, you know, a lot of times we get into these arguments, you know, with black conservatives, okay? This isn't political. This is ideological discourse at the moment. Right now, black people are not really a part of the American system as equals. And if you have a particular system that's functioning that you're in, that you're not equal to everyone else, you're not really a functioning, valuable part of that institution outside of the fact that you can be used by folks who are equal to satisfy their goals and desires for their lives. Case in point, when it comes election time, both Democrats, Republicans, and whoever out there soliciting for your vote. Your situation hasn't changed. You're still a black man being choked out, being killed, being murdered, being incarcerated at a higher rate, being hiring not the same, buying cars $1,000 more than the white person. You're still on the lower side of that totem pole. Okay? They're just using you. Okay? And so what I see is, and so it's very, oftentimes we have these arguments with black conservatives that it's like, why are you even arguing for that point? They don't even like you. They're using you. And it goes, it's oblivious. And it just hit me the other day. You know, I spent 17 years going into juvenile detention trying to encourage the young people to be well in life. Giving them all kinds of tidbits, giving them everything that I had to give. Every example, every story, every statistic, you know, just motivating messages, encouraging messages, you know, little stories like parables and stories to try to get them. But you know what I found is like just about every one of them, almost 100%, they never changed. Now changed, you know, you can say, well, change, they kind of changed, you know, because by the time you hear something different, you've changed. Okay, I understand that from a psychological perspective and all. But their lives didn't really change. And they'd be like, but they would want to change. They'd be like, I'm going to change, you're right, you know, because they're in this confined situation, you know, in lockup, and they don't have their influences out there. They're not high, they're not buzzed, so they don't have anything pulling at them. I've changed, Mr. Jarvis, I've changed, I promise I've changed. And then about a month later, I'm down there and they come walking back in there in their little orange jumpsuits. Okay? And so what I want to share with you today, it's like a mental illness. Okay? Trying to be, because we have been programmed, we have been over years and years and years, we have been experienced. I'm using that sort of with an ED. We have been experienced into the mindsets that we're in, and these are generational experiences that have created who we believe that we are. And we talked in another program, you know, what you feed into yourself, your subconscious believes that's who you are and begins to create this personality based on what you've been feeding yourself. You think you're a gangbanger, you think you're this, so now you are. And it takes a lot to change that perception of oneself. And so to me, I want to call it really a mental illness, which is why you can't really we can be sitting here in a situation where we recognize the police are killing black people. We recognize the situation is dismal as far as ethnic persecution in this nation for black people. Yet you still have like gangbangers, gang members out there shooting up each other black people, and killing them. Why would they do that? Recognizing that we're fighting a common enemy, the ethnic oppression in this nation, why would you over here be killing each other when our only strength is being unified fighting our common enemy? The reason is a mental illness. That's why they can't see reason. That's why they can't see the sense in not killing each other. This is just the life that they're living. They're mentally ill. In their defense, But then I look over here and I see a black conservative believing that they're part of a party, a functioning party, a viable party in this nation for black people, regardless of the rhetoric that's coming from the folks that they've attached themselves to. That's anti-black. And you cannot convince these guys of this error. You have as much chance convincing these political conservative black folks that there's an issue with black folks to what you've attached yourself to. You have just as much success changing their minds as you have changing these gangbangers' minds from killing each other. They're both mentally ill. And I don't mean like a Down syndrome type. I mean, I'm saying mentally ill, which their mind is not processing what they're experiencing, what they're seeing properly. And so what I used to think, because you take a man, a black man or a black woman that's dressed up, looking sharp, giving this argument, you recognize there is a weakness in that person's mind. See, you want to see them as strong, because that is the perception that they give out, but really they're weak-minded people that have acquiesced to what is obviously not in their best interest. But somehow feeling if they align themselves with a certain group that seems powerful, that they are powerful as well. And they're not. So I look at the black folks that have embraced white politicians who haven't really the interest of black people at heart. There's some very weak-minded people. And black people that have embraced the gang lifestyle, whose ideology really doesn't have the wellness or benefit for black people at heart, they're also very weak-minded. Now, both of these entities can seem powerful, one in their speech and rhetoric and the other in their weapons, but both are confused. They're both mentally ill. It's very hard to change. So what I'm suggesting is that there is a strength in those gangbangers, even in their mental illness. There is a strength in the political black conservatives, even in their mental illness. But the bulk of black people and their angst are neither gangbangers or black conservatives, but we are not, for the most of us, working actively to better our situation and the lives of our children. So we are victims to the gangbangers, and we are victims to the black conservatives, because those who are neither are for the most part not doing their best to elevate themselves, raising the bar for the young people that are watching them. Because we could change this society. I mean, I was thinking, this is what we're going to close with. I was thinking, they're talking about the voting rights issues because of what we saw happen in Georgia, especially, trying to redistrict, trying to make voting more difficult for black folks and all that stuff. And I'm thinking, we're fighting this battle for 2 years now for the next 2 years before these next elections come up, more local elections. As far as railing against those who are trying to restrict the voting for black people by enacting certain rules. My thoughts are, rather than arguing that for 2 years, spend the next 2 years teaching and encouraging black folks to work within the constraining system that these folks have set up. So no matter, like a warrior, you can't have just one battle plan or one game plan. If it doesn't work, you have to be able to adjust. And so no matter what comes your way, persevere and win. Okay? But that does take, this whole message is simply about our personal responsibility to make ourselves better than we have been, so our children will have a positive image to chase after. How's that? Well, anyway, I know I've bent your ear for quite some time now. I hope you got something out of this conversation. And I do want to thank you for listening. And I want to invite you to listen again. You take care.